Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the In Between podcast. It's been a little while since we last recorded, but I'm here today with Joseph Rosales, and we are excited to be recording from inside our new house of worship here at the Exeter Church of God Chapel at 246 Chestnut Street. We're meeting here at 10 a.m. now, and we'd love to have you join us on a Sunday morning. But thanks so much for joining us here on this podcast. Joseph, good to have you with us.
Yeah, it's good to be back, man.
Yeah. So last time Joseph was on the podcast, we didn't have this plan in the works, but Joseph is with us right now as a church planting resident, right? That's what we're calling you, church planting resident. And so we're part of a family of churches called Confluence. There's 5 of us here in California, and Joseph attends Radiant Church in Visalia, which is the mother church, the mothership, the flagship, if you will.
Yeah, the mothership.
Anyway, Joseph is doing a bit of a rotation where he's serving the different churches in our area for the next 12 months, and so we've had the pleasure of having him with us here for I don't know, about 6 weeks or so. Maybe a little bit longer than that.
I think it's going on 2 months or so.
Yeah. So he'll be with us for the rest of the summer. And he's been preaching here and there. We've got a couple more preaches to go. And I thought it'd be fun to bring Joseph in and just talk, Joseph, about church planting, what you're seeing, what you're learning, knowing that you feel in your heart a call to establish a new church. And I wanted to just start by asking, what's like the main thing that you would say has kind of stood out, or what are some of the things? It doesn't just have to be one thing, but what are some of the things that have stood out as you've been with us here in Exeter and thinking more and more about this idea of church planting yourself?
Yeah, well, one of the things I think a lot of people, a lot of believers, they could see church planting very exciting and very like, oh, let's go, let's pioneer.
Yeah.
But the truth behind it is you have to have a heart of servanthood.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of serving rather than just going and being on a pulpit and preaching, right? I mean, one of the first jobs I got to do on this residency was be on the copy machine for about like 5 days printing copies, right? But that's part of church planting, and to be in the season I'm in, to see that is, I think it's a great experience for me, but even for you, if you're, have that desire to be a church planter, just know it's not just about preaching and being on the pulpit, but you're going to be serving and you're going to have to wear many hats. So right now I'm in that little place of like testing and tasting all those different areas, even in my own ministry, Raymond Revival, but even with you, I'm seeing you operate and in this new church plant, because it's you're going on 3 years.
Yeah, we're almost 3 years old.
3 years old. So it's like I'm seeing you lay the foundation of certain things that eventually I might have to go and do, right? So it's pretty cool to experience that with you in Exeter Valley.
The idea of church planting can be a little bit more zesty than the reality of church planting at times, just the other day, we were in here and we were dusting the archway or whatever.
Yeah, we're dusting.
You've helped serve us, moving. You helped carry a table over from our other building. You know, it's like, oh, what are you doing? Learning how to church plant. You know, that's what's does anything come to mind as the most ridiculous thing you've seen me do, or
the most ridiculous
you've had to do, or the most surprising thing?
The most ridiculous so far was carrying that table, and I was in sandals and I didn't have tennis shoes on. Literally carried a table from a block away. 4 guys, and just trucked it on over.
It was easier and faster than getting a trailer to move it.
So that was. I think so. Church planting, there's manual labor.
That's true. What do you think you've learned the most in this early stage? Specifically being here at a church because Radiant Church, where you serve and attend right now, or where you were serving and attending, is bigger. It feels more established, definitely. hundreds of people attend there every Sunday.
Yeah, definitely.
Now in this setting, you've been with us while we were in a portable situation, setting up every morning, and now you've been with us as we transitioned into this building that we're in today. What's maybe one of the things that you've learned through the experience that you've had with us?
Yeah, well, like I said, I think that's the most important is seeing you and your leaders and members, lay the foundation. I think that's most important. And also just being a part of a fairly new church plant.
Yeah.
I think like if anybody's aspiring to be a church planter, be a part of a new church plant and see how it is, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not all just, bells and whistles, right? There's a lot of grind, there's a lot of work that, that you need to do.
Yeah.
And I think being with you here in Exeter Valley, it's kind of given me that taste and that experience. And I think that's probably like the most helpful right now.
Yeah. So you still think you want to plant a church?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I think sometimes for the local church, we just tend to get so focused on the inside.
Yeah.
You even feel that pull when you have kind of like a space to call your own.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to get focused on the lights and the paint and the sound system and the service and so I think what you're up to. We're excited to partner with you. We consider you guys to be kind of the experts, so to speak, on evangelism. And so we're excited just to glean and to participate. Parachurch organizations, when they can partner with a local church, that's a good little 1-2 punch, and hopefully, we can see some people saved and or get plugged into a local church context where they can be part of a family that's ongoing, so.
And that's one of the things that kind of fueled my church planting desire is we've seen people get saved, but there wasn't a church that was there to clean the fish, right?
That's right.
And that was kind of like, man, that burden right there was like, well, you need to plant a church, and so you can clean these fish that are caught, right? I would say right when COVID hit, that's when like God set me on mission, and just started going hard for Jesus, dude, like literally, and just started going out and with brothers that I knew that were in the faith, and next thing you know, we got this ministry, and here we are. It's kind of surreal, like I would have never thought about leading a ministry or creating a ministry because I didn't do it. It's all God that gave the idea and the vision, and so we just want to glorify Him and magnify Him.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about church planting. I mean, what would you say? I mean, I know I have my reasons and things that I've heard about why church planting is so vital, but what would you say is like, at the core of it, like, you mentioned the idea of, catching fish through evangelism, but then cleaning fish, through the church. And so, what would you say are like the main reasons?
I would say that one, number one, is cleaning those fish that are that were caught. But also something I've been seeing lately, especially in our culture in the secular world, is there's a lot of new churches or old churches conforming to the world, such as like we see churches that are conforming to like LGBTQ, and you see drag queens preaching on the pulpit, and it's like, and I don't know the statistic, but I wonder how many of those churches are being produced rather than like healthy spirit, word, and mission churches, right? Like that's another thing that's kind of been fueling me is like, well, we need to be planting more healthy churches because we're at war, and it's not against flesh and blood, right? There's principalities, cosmic powers, authorities, and we need laborers in the harvest is what it is. So.
All right, turn it up a notch, man. So you're I mean, and that's that's like, I mean, that's a reality of the world that we live in, is that there are some churches who have gone astray, right? And so, man, the importance of not just planting a church, but planting a healthy, like biblically faithful word spirit church that's on mission with God to see all things made new. that's living into his good design for creation, in all ways, including human sexuality and the issues in our current day with gender identity. One thing that I have not had to worry about as a church planter is I have not had to worry about turning a ship that was really enormous and established in the ocean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We just been in our little sailboat and we're able to like, boom, boom, we can zig and zag.
Yeah.
We can maneuver and we can set a new course. We're not trying to turn an enormous institution that's got a bunch of history and a bunch of bylaws and ways of doing things and board meetings and et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that got me really inspired that Tim Keller had to say is that new churches actually really invigorate existing churches. And so when a new church comes to town or a new church comes into your block, that the energy that comes along with a new church will often really be the thing that catalyzes and invigorates an existing church. It's kind of like the principle in economics where competition tends to drive excellence, you know? Where good businesses in close proximity will push each other to to create. I think that principle kind of works. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. So it's our hope that even our church plant would be an encouragement to other local churches and an invigoration to other local churches. And we don't have like the best way to do everything. We don't have the corner on the market on how to do church. That's not true at all. But we're just trying to be faithful to the call of God in our lives.
I find it very interesting because now you have, as a church plant, have moved to here, the Church of God in Exeter.
Yeah.
And they're an established church,
right?
And you're moving in right next door, right? So I'm curious to see like that energy this new church plant is it gonna bring? Is it gonna is it gonna light something up? Is there gonna be revival here at Church of God?
Well,
that'd be pretty cool if that's something that.
I think there's two sides to that fresh energy equation, and I hope we don't light anything literally on fire. When you talk about the energy of something young, like a young child, I mean, it's great to see the energy, but then every now and again they trip and break something, which is, I'm super scared that we would do that here. But I think speaking more positively, I mean, that'd be our desire, and we've been so fortunate that because people are used to churches like being like this. People are not used to churches being like shoulder to shoulder, And so I think we have an opportunity, and I know that the leaders at Church of God feel this way. We have this opportunity to represent to the community around us that's watching, like how Christian brothers and sisters, even though we have our own separate identity as churches, and there's a way of doing church here at Exeter Valley Church, and there's a way of doing church at Church of God, but we really believe that God has put us together in partnership to see his kingdom extended in our hometown, even though we are separate churches. And I mean, really, they've led the way in that because they're the ones with the resource to share.
Well, it's definitely pretty cool. And I'm very encouraged to see the transition from the memorial building to here now, because that's church planting. Usually there's a lot of like, you start small, humble beginnings, then you're just going place to place. And because it's most of the time you don't have a location.
Not
or
at
a building,
first,
So for me to be in that process, like I wouldn't experience that at Radiant Visalia, I wouldn't. And so it's cool to be in that atmosphere, and it's very encouraging. Like it's definitely lit a fire under me more so about church planting. Like, man, like they're doing it, and like this thing is possible if you rely on the Spirit of God, And so,
come on.
Yeah, it's very encouraging.
Yeah, I guess this is our fourth space. We started in living rooms.
Yeah.
And then we moved into the building at Pine Street, and then we moved into the memorial building. We're there for a year, and so now, right at the end of our third year, we're moving into a real church.
Yeah. What is like one good piece of advice you have as a church planter for them?
Oh, all right. No lead up to think about this. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm gonna. Yesterday, I sat with our old landlord, who's a retired pastor, and he pastored in this town. And he told me yesterday, he's like, "This is my advice. He was like on a stage yesterday in my time with him, and he was like, my advice is two things. Number one, stay humble. And number two, keep the presence of God at the forefront of everything that you do. And it's just he's like, as your church grows, there's this tendency to take pride in what you've accomplished and what you've done. And we can take pride in, oh, that was a great sermon, take pride in that. We can take pride in all, even when God moves, we have a tendency as human beings to kind of take pride in that.
Yeah.
And so his admonition was to stay humble. I think that's really good advice. Stay humble. I think that most men respond to failure pretty similarly. Like we tend to just like try harder. When you fail at first, you just go harder, new plan, work harder.
Yeah.
But how you handle success is really the differentiator. And I think so many times in ministry, a sense of personal pride and even spiritual pride can creep in, and I think that's part of the reason that you see some of the failures in ministry that we see in terms of character. This is his church. It's not my church. It will be his church with whatever you lead someday. And so I think that was good advice. Well, be humble, and then the presence of God. Let the presence of God be the main thing. And no matter what the mission is, whether it's a new building, it's an expansion, hiring a new staff, building a bigger staff, whatever comes, being with God in prayer, valuing the presence of God, listening to the voice of God, and allowing God to lead his church by his presence. This is where we want to keep our aim. And I thought, man, this is really good advice. So that'd be my advice.
All right. Well, I receive it.
Yeah. So, humility and focusing on the presence of God. Yeah. So.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting to have you, man. It's been a blast to hang out with you as this residency has gone along for us, and maybe we'll get another podcast in before you're done with us. But exciting times for Exeter Valley Church. Exciting times for the family of churches as we see kind of like a real push and an energy, a new energy, I would say, to see churches planted within the family of churches. And it's exciting. I wonder in 10 years, what will we be talking about? What stories will we be telling about God and what he's done? Maybe we'll tell stories. Remember that day you were like walking the table down the alley from our old church to our new church, and look what God has done in this space. So,
yeah, definitely. Oh, man.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah.